does it remind it to you?
That he's a rock star.
Okay.
Shane is
He
rocking the EuroLeague once again.
He was.
He was unstoppable last night.
He's becoming the fourth quarter Shane Larkin that we got used to.
Yeah.
Couple of years ago, he was decisive against Žalgiris in the overtime and in the end of the regulation, if I remember well. 10 points in the fourth quarter in Monaco as well. Is that a turning point for Efes?
It should be.
It should be.
2 wins in a row.
I
The
believe
first,
it is.
especially this one against Monaco away.
I mean, already against Žalgiris, I think in Turkey and on social media, there were a lot of rumors about Erdem Can. And I was like, you want Lithuanian teams to win in the EuroLeague. But at the same time, I didn't want that to be the last game of Erdem Can. And they managed to turn it around. Players show more intensity. And, that was a good win, not letting Žalgiris to steal that one. And now against Monaco away, against, Monaco team with Jordan Lloyd.
A team that was on a winning streak coming into that game.
As well, too. So I think that's a really good win. Efes are starting to build some momentum. Players are starting to understand, I think, better their roles. Shane Larkin, Will Clyburn was amazing last game. Shane was amazing in this one, as well as he closed out last game. So
and I think
everything is starting to fall
Darius
into
Thompson
place.
is also stepping his game up. More
Absolutely.
consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
2 games in a row. Of course, he fouled out versus Žalgiris. He couldn't play in the overtime, but in general, it was a good game for him and yesterday as well.
16 and 5, 3 steals, good shooting percentages, 2 turnovers only. Efes had 24 assists and 7 turnovers. That's a sign of a team coming together offensively, which they struggled with in the let's say in the first 6 or 7 games.
And some of the shots that Shane Larkin made, you can just say it was great defense. There's nothing you can do about it, especially that one of the last plays versus Alpha Diallo.
It closed the game, basically.
It basically closed the game. It's a tough shot. You can just approach Alpha Diallo and shake his hand and say, that was great defense.
At the same time,
It's just Shane Larkin.
Some might say that these were lucky shots, but at the same time, these were shots that Shane Larkin is capable of making.
Yeah, these are lucky shots if a regular player hits
not for
3 or
Shane
4
Larkin.
of those in one game. Then you say these are lucky shots. Some random role player just stepping up.
Or if like Edgar Oslanovas or Arnas Butkevičius starts making those shots.
That used to happen consistently last year somehow. But if Shane Larkin does it, you just appreciate greatness. I mean, there are some players, elite players like Shane, like James, like some others in EuroLeague that you expect to make those shots. Other guys, even if I'm not saying make those shots, if they take those shots, you say they're crazy. That's the level of basketball we're talking about. I mean, this Monaco Efes game was actually really high quality game in general. Monaco made a couple of comebacks. They were down most of the time. They managed to respond. You can see how much Jordan Lloyd brings to the team, how important he is. And I cannot say that Monaco really played bad, but it's just Efes with Shane, with Darius Thompson making all the right plays.
Beaubois had a crazy game.
Yeah,
21 points.
Rodrigue Beaubois, I think he
His
had some
impact on
favorable
defense.
matchups, and he managed to capitalize on that. And he has a very good first step. He has this great way of attacking the closeout, creating his own shot. Also, there are sets they're running for him as well. So, yeah, I mean, these guys were performing, even though Will Clyburn didn't have a particularly good game.
Only 4 points for him, yeah.
But the guards of Efes kind of reminded of the good old days with Vasa, Micic, Shane Larkin, Beaubois, and also Kruno Simon in the mix.
Well, in the last 3 games, Efes have number 2, second offensive rating in the whole EuroLeague, although they had 11 for 12, if I'm not mistaken, in the first 5 rounds. And I really liked what Erdem Can did with Derek Willis playing at the 5, in the end of games. Yes, Tyreek Jones was playing really well in the game against Žalgiris at the 5 position, giving that switching abilities. But, now having Derek Willis opened up a lot of spaces for Will, for Shane to attack, and his speed is unmatched. Even for great perimeter defenders like John Brown, he just gets in the paint, creates advantage, and then you're playing off of that. The dominoes start to fall. So Derek Willis, I thought, was a great move, by Erdem Can in the fourth quarter to match Monaco's, to somehow create advantages against Monaco defense that was playing really intense.
Yeah, and it's also part of Erdem Can trying to find lineups he wants to play, and especially lineups including the frontline decisions and solutions. Since they're still searching for the big man addition, they're still exploring the market of the NBA players who still have hopes to make it to the NBA. He has to deal with the current lineup that he has, and that was an interesting choice. I didn't expect him to play Derek Willis at such an important center position.
In this game, he used all of his centers in the rotation. As usual,
even Tibor Plais got back.
Yeah, and he played good minutes actually. But you start with Žižić as usual, and Žižić really struggled to guard Donatas Motiejunas. Dimo had some spectacular plays. He hit a 3-pointer. He was driving to the basket to his left, straight from the 3-point line. Some post-up plays, and actually Žižić, I would say he lost his battle against Motiejunas. But then you go to other guys, and Tibor Plais, he played short minutes, but he was really effective. Like, he stepped on the court, pick and pop action, 3-pointer. Shane Larkin is penetrating, just lobs it to Tibor Plais, a dunk. So he scored 7 points in 6 minutes. And then, of course, when you close the game and when you're facing a team such as Monaco, you want to have a mobile 5, and Žižić or Plais is not the solution. So the decision to go with Derek Willis, I think it was smart.
Just Erdem Can going with the best possible guys. Like Tyreek Jones was playing all the fourth quarter and overtime last week. Now it's Derek Willis. So I think the coach is just evaluating what's best for this team. And, in the last 2 games, Santa Žižić, even Žalgiris had the greatest offensive runs with him playing on court. Keenan Evans could attack his, whether that's hedge, whether that's drop defense. You could get a lot of Žalgiris and Monaco got a lot of good shots against Žižić playing at the 5.
And basically, we're just figuring out that Derek Willis is a solid EuroLeague player, because these are 2 back-to-back performances for him. Some important shots made. He's a good 3-point shooter. He stretches the floor. Versus Žalgiris, he also had his first career double-double in EuroLeague. I remember watching him for Juventud Badalona. I thought he's a good player, but you always have those doubts if the player can make that step to EuroLeague. And recently, it seems like Efes definitely found the right player for their system. Which is nice. And as you said, they probably are still looking for one more big man, which also makes sense. Even though,
from the defensive standpoint, in my eyes, they need to upgrade their defense in the front line.
You mean like to replace Brian Dunstan?
Potentially, It's I don't know what was the plan with the Tariq Jones, let's say, but of course they need some defensive anchor defensive player out there to fill some gaps. Anyways, welcome to the URBONUS podcast. I'm the host Nadas URBONUS, joined by Rytis Vyšniauskas and Augustas Šuliauskas. We're gonna discuss some Tuesday EuroLeague action of the double week that we're having, and we're midway through. Just before, short shout out to Beyond Plus members, our Beyond Plus subscribers that support us on starter, all-star, or GM levels. Jason, Give Me Stats.com, Basketball Stats, Kristas Pokytis, Gabrielius Serva, Jonut Gargescu, Nico Zinio, T-Wold, T21, Ivaras, Hoopvan, Victory, Nick BG, Stefan Staminic, and Koki, and all the other almost 300 members that we had. And I mean, we have some great offers. And actually, the next week, we're going to have Q&A episode, which will be available only for Beyond Plus members. But it's not only about the podcast. We also have breakdowns of Augustas published on our website from time to time. We have a great WhatsApp chat and Beyond Plus members community on WhatsApp chat, and also our Discord server. We have some inside information, behind the scenes information, and our BN Insider, and a lot of other features. And you can get all of that actually for 1.7 euros per month. That's what cup of espresso. Usually in Lithuania, we pay even more for a cup of espresso. So that's how cheap it is. So once again, BasketNews.com /plus. And for sure, we're going to go through the Tuesday games, but let's start with the hottest news from this weekend and this infamous interview made by Ettore Messina. I'll just read the full quote one more time. At the base of this poor start of the season, there's a critical mistake. We don't have the right driver for our car. Pangos is not the right man to make this team play in a certain way, and I didn't make the right adjustments trying to simplify the game, making him pass more through two big men like Nikola and Johannes Voigtmann. With a simpler game, we would have fewer turnovers, something that cost us several losses. I admit that I made a mistake. Maybe I should have understood that when Pangos went from being Cleveland Cavaliers' backup guard to being out of the rotation in a few months. And he continued with another controversial take. Last season, with Shabazz Napier fixed the situation during the ongoing season and won the Italian League. But this summer, after Napier said that he wanted to stay, he increased his requests even more. We had already offered him the triple of what he was making. We couldn't do more than that, and now he's sending texts to his friends saying that he would love to come back. So, just for the record, Ettore Messina denied the second part of the interview about Shabazz Napier because it created probably the biggest noise, basically putting the player under the bus, having him struggling with Zvezda at the start of the season, playing for the club which has, a huge and very passionate fan base.
He broke his nose yesterday?
And
seems like in the second minute of the game.
And he's so unlucky.
Very unlucky. But also to clarify the situation, that's how this interview looked. From what I understood, there were two Italian journalists who criticized Messina the most about him having two roles in the club. As somebody who makes decisions as the president of basketball operations in Milan, and Messina also playing this head coach role in the team. So Messina decided to invite those two journalists from the media outlets in Italy, to explain the whole situation, how it works, how the process looks, and that it doesn't, let's say, distract him from making, or let's say, from being the best head coach for this team. But of course, the idea is nice. First of all, I would like to say that usually in Lithuania, maybe in some other countries, when you're criticized by media, you usually try to defend yourself by responding to those remarks in the press conferences or just ignoring those journalists. So to invite those who criticize you the most and to explain them the whole picture is a nice step. But probably he couldn't believe that this interview might have this outcome. The problem is that one media outlet quoted him this part about Shabazz Napier. The other one didn't, and Messina clarified that it was a wrong interpretation by the second journalist who put it on public, and it was not true, and he was never about to comment former players or players from different teams and their situation. But anyway, it still, made huge noise here in Europe. Mike James stepped in, and he was really honest with some of his takes, calling Messina a dinosaur, not proving that he can win in today's basketball in the EuroLeague for putting players under the bus as well. But I would like to hear your reactions. What do you find most, let's say, the most wrong in this whole situation?
What was right about the situation from the season?
There are no questions.
Yeah.
Oh, his comments about Pangos, you can agree or disagree, and probably I disagree, and it doesn't stand with me that he's going out to criticize his player that he signed and to say things that might actually insult him, like you're not the right driver for our car. But also I have to say that in Europe, he's not the first coach to publicly criticize his own players. And you're still talking about your player that has a contract with your club. So with this, I have less issues than with the Shabazz Napier comments.
But even with, let's stay on Pangos, I think, first, I mean, I think he signed him last summer. he saw that it did not work because he signed Shabazz-Napier and Kevin was injured for a lot of time. And in the summer, there were many rumors that Olympia want Kevin Pangos out. But you still, keep him. And after 5 or 6 games, you come out saying this, that he is the problem to all of our faults. I mean, the guy is both responsible for basketball operations, so signing players, which he said in that interview that it's important for me that I have the decisions to sign players. And, a lot of coaches, not all the coaches have that in Europe. And he has, so he's responsible for players, and he's responsible for coaching them. And he's basically right now saying that Kevin Pangos is the guy that is responsible for all his problems, for all Milano problems that they have. Milano haven't been at least an average offensive team in the last 3 seasons. They have been bottom 3 last season. They have been bottom 3 2 seasons ago, and right now even they're in the 13th position with. After signing Nikola Mirotic with Siobhan Shields, in his best shape. So just saying this about your player after only 6 games in the season, when you kept him this summer, if you did not believe in him, what you're saying right now that you saw him, go from rotation player to going out from rotations in the NBA, just don't keep him in the summer. But don't blame him after 6 games that he is responsible for all those problems. So I don't know what this impact will have for the players that might want to sign with Milano. Hearing these quotes about Pangos, about Shabazz, writing. If I'm a player and I'm looking and I know this story, I might want to rethink about signing because you never know when your coach is going to blame you. Maybe after 5 games you sign, you play bad, and he is the fault of all of our problems. So,
and actually, I think that the impact, the damage is already, was felt this off season because they went after Darius Thompson. He went to Efes. They went after trying to resign Shabazz-Napier. He went to Zvezda. They also were in the mix for Kostas Lukas. They couldn't get anybody, so they stayed with Kevin Pangos, the wrong driver for their car, although they already knew it, putting him completely out of the rotation.
It was like Nick Kaleta's situation in Fenerbahce, really similar to me. Both guys knew their teams don't really want them to stay, but since they don't really find other solutions, they keep them, and it's like that's a loss-loss situation, I think, for both parties.
In my eyes, he said so many unnecessary things. Why have to bring up his chapter in Cleveland Cavaliers? Why do you want to look him even worse, saying that I should have understood that before?
Yeah, probably Real Madrid should have hesitated for signing Deck because he was out of rotation in Oklahoma.
And the funny and not that funny thing is that now they will try to shop Kevin Pangos. So you're saying all these things publicly about the player you try to shop to save some money, because you don't want to. First of all, instead of blaming the guy, just pay him his contract, or let's say most of his contracts, to cover half of €2 million contract that he has in Milan this year, or even instead of putting him under the bus, give him even more, just for him to make it easier to sign with any other club, instead of doing this. And now he's probably not playing until January, because in the EuroLeague, according to EuroLeague rules, you cannot switch EuroLeague teams until December 30. So you kept the guy, you knew that he's not the right driver for your car, then you're going after him, publicly. You kind of put him prisoned for 2 more months, and it's just, for me, a lot of unnecessary things, a lot of bad decisions.
And we shouldn't forget that he was injured for a long time as well. Last season he got hurt. He couldn't get in shape. He couldn't get in rhythm. So I'm not defending Ettore Messina. For sure, I'm defending Pangos in this situation. But I'm just saying that at least you're talking about the player that's under contract with your club. We're going to get to the Shabazz-Napier part. And with Pangos, I still believe he's a great player. I still believe he's a great point guard. just happens sometimes that you're not the right fit or you're not under the right circumstances. Many players went through that during their careers, and it's fine. It happens. It's how you deal with it, both sides, the club, the coach, and the player himself. So after these comments, I couldn't imagine myself playing for Messina again. And like, you can say something like, maybe it was the wrong decision, maybe we couldn't find the right player in the market, but saying wrong driver for our car and all that stuff, you have so many drivers in your team. Like, the way you build your roster, it seems like forwards should be driving your team, not guards.
Remember we were talking about the
forwards,
summer.
right?
One of those 7 guys that play at the 4, and you in the end you have to play the greatest stretch 4 in the league as a free. So to me, it just probably shows that maybe it's not the best idea to have so much power in one man's hands in a basketball club. Like, he's the president of basketball operations. He's also the head coach. I'm all for coach having the ability to choose the players that fit his system and all that. But Messina, first of all, seems unfireable in that club.
Mm-hmm.
What needs to happen for him to be fired? If some other coach was in Milan, without all that power, without all that status, he probably would be fired last season. At some point.
I'm okay with coaches getting to pick what players they want in their team. It's simply that in this situation, it's not working. Like, this combination of choosing players and then coaching them, it's not working right now in the last couple of years for Messina. And, Milano was at their best when they had really great guards creating everything. Chacho, Malcolm Delaney, Kevin Punter there. That's when they were really good. But after that, it's not working. Offensively, they're, with all that talent that they have, they're unwatchable. Like, if you have teams you want to see on EuroLeague TV, Milano is the last team from the start of last season for me, because they're playing just... And I have sympathy for Italian teams,
And we're talking about one of the most talented teams in the EuroLeague.
We're talking about a team with basically unlimited budget. You want a player, you get him.
Exactly.
That's the way it has been for Messina. You wanted him, you got him. I mean, yes, as you said, in the summer, some targets, they chose other teams. But in the end, you're still signing. First of all, they're all experienced EuroLeague vets. And secondly, these are 1 million, 2 million euro range players.
And it's unfair they always try to highlight that they don't have the unlimited budget, but it's unfair to throw these statements when you go after Nikola Mirotic, in the off season. It's just about, I would put it this way, you had different priorities of how much you want to pay for this player or that, but it's not like you don't have you
sign Mirotic on top of everything. You don't sign him because you need him or
you start building
you
the
want
project.
To build a team around him. You sign him on top of everything. I could actually take Brandon Davis' situation as an example. There were no public comments about him. There were no criticism like towards Pangos right now. But
not
we
so
didn't follow
public.
Italian media that much, probably, to
maybe,
have a clear picture.
But at some point last season, there was a situation where Messina didn't play Davis in a EuroLeague game.
Technical decision.
Same
like
right?
with Kevin right now.
And you could feel like there's not much chemistry between Davis and Messina. Like, Davis wants to play the way he plays, where he feels best, and Messina wants him to play under certain strict, let's say, principles. And in the end, it didn't work out. And now you see Davis in Valencia. He's the same old Brandon Davis. There's nothing wrong with him. He's still a great player, one of the best centers in the league right now. So maybe the system isn't working. So instead of blaming players, you can start thinking, how can I make these players feel better and play better? Because they were great for some other teams. Pangos was all EuroLeague, right?
He was all EuroLeague and also second EuroLeague team when he played for Žalgiris.
Okay, in Barcelona, maybe under Pesic, he wasn't that great, but still he was their main point guard. He was okay. Davis, same example. And the list goes on and on and on and on. And now we see so many players underperforming, and you're asking the question, why? So maybe it's just that the system isn't working.
And now let's go to Shabazz.
And now, Yeah, I mean
that's
where
worst part. Yeah.
that's where I have a problem. Whether it was said or not, okay. Now I cannot.
He said it.
Most likely, yes, because why would you come up with quotes that? Why would you create quotes?
It would be crazy to create quotes because I also did a little research about the journalist who wrote this article and put that quotes of Shabazz Napier. So he's working in this business for many years. He is experienced. He's well respected among his colleagues. He's working for big media outlets, and he's also covering some other sports. And it's hard to believe that this guy made all that up. What I think, knowing how it works, it's very likely that, there was this part of Messina giving an interview and saying, okay, this is off the record, but this and that happened, but you cannot put it on the article. Maybe he didn't emphasize it enough, or maybe the journalist didn't hear it, or I don't know. What was the problem? Actually, both journalists, he could actually step up and say what was the real story, because he kind of, damaged the image of the journalism, of your job, of your work, how trustworthy you are. So, he could go out with the recording or just explain the whole situation.
He threw Napier first. He threw up under the bus Napier and then the journalist.
And Pangos also.
I don't know if it was off the record or on the record. I don't know that, but it went public. So my response is that, first of all, it's disrespectful towards Crvena Zvezda, a club that has the player with a contract, an important player, and for the player, it's even more disrespectful because even if he is texting somebody and he's speaking with some of his former teammates from Milan, that's his personal stuff. Like, you don't need to bring out gossip. You don't need to start saying like, oh, he's texting my guys and saying he felt great in Milan. Fine, he can do that. It's his life. These are personal conversations. And also, well, you should not even make comments as a professional about other clubs' business and players that have contracts with other clubs. You can talk basketball. You can say that with Shabazz, we were playing great. He was doing this and that. It's fine. But now...
And especially when it involves the player you actually wanted to keep, but you didn't value him enough in the off season to make him stay. If they matched what Zvezda offered, he was about to stay in Milan. That's for sure. So that's what it makes him even worse, and it sounds very arrogant and of course irresponsible for Messina.
And you should just respect Zvezda as your rivals in the league, like making comments about their player and saying that he wants to be back with us because that's what he's texting. I mean, it's so disrespectful.
To me, it's even, how do you, let's say, why do you even say it off the record? Don't even say
to a journalist.
Don't even
to a journalist.
Don't even
to
spread
a journalist who are your, let's say, biggest critics, and you never know how they can use this information.
Is this the new tactic?
If that's the case, of course, we're just speculating a little bit in this case.
Yeah, is this the new tactic to retain a player, like saying these things, thinking it might get on the radar?
Or maybe it's the tactic to get some love from the journalists that criticize you too much.
Giving him some inside information.
Why do you care about that? Why would you care about that?
I mean, it depends on every individual. If it was you or me, I don't care about that. And
if it's somebody who's won so much in basketball and has been in this job for 40 years.
What if he's like, he's affected by the pressure he's getting in Italy? He wants to improve his image. Maybe,
I don't.
Again, we're just speculating.
Think he really cares about that, to be honest. But who knows? But it's just unprofessional. Shabazz isn't having the greatest start of the season in Crvena Zvezda, and you're saying these things off the record. If this gets out and you don't know that, when you're saying it, what reaction this creates among Crvena Zvezda environment? Yeah. He's not playing great. He's not playing up to the standard, and he knows that. And now you're basically confronting the whole fan group of Crvena Zvezda against Napier because he's saying he wants to be back in Milano. To me, that's just, unprofessional, and I'm glad. I don't know if Napier, and Crvena Zvezda fans, what conditions they are on right now, but I just hope that, his his play will speak louder than anything else, and
that unfortunate
yeah,
accident also happened yesterday.
true.
But yeah, I still believe he can be a leader for Crvena Zvezda team. Let's just be patient with that, and hopefully all this noise will not have too much effect on him. I never thought that we would be sitting in these chairs questioning Messina's professionalism. I mean, it's one thing that we criticize his team, the way they play, their results, but professionalism, we're talking about the most experienced coach in the league right now. I'm talking about someone who has experience at so many different levels: EuroLeague, national teams, NBA.
And he set the bar so high for everybody, for media, for his players, because he's also very demanding coach. So you also kind of expect, that professionalism that he's asking from everybody around. And this whole situation actually reminds me a lot what happened early into the season with Nuggets GM Calvin Booth. I don't know if you remember, but the Ringer put a story where the Ringer, they kind of made a picture of the Denver Nuggets team and organization and how it worked, how everything was working, and their path to the winning NBA championship. And Calvin Booth threw some remarks about Michael Porter Jr. and there was somebody else involved, and it was very honest and a bit controversial quote. And it turned out that later Calvin Booth went public saying that under no circumstances would I make or approve of those kind of comments for public consumption. That's not my character as a person or executive. So he, let's say, confirmed that he shared these thoughts off the record with the journalist for him to have a better understanding and a bigger picture of the situation. But of course, it was not for the article, not the article material. So potentially this off the record situation, like we deal a lot in our business. But in Messina's case, he actually accused the journalist of inventing some stuff and quotes.
It's hard to imagine a journalist, an experienced journalist, inventing quotes from nowhere. This reminds me actually of another story when Rick Pitino was a coach and head of basketball operations for the Boston Celtics.
Okay.
And he had a player by the name of Chauncey Billups, a young, promising guard. And he just didn't find the correct way how to use him on the court. And in the end, their relationship got bad. And Rick Pitino, as he was in charge of everything, he just traded Chauncey Billups. And we know what Chauncey Billups went on to do later in his career. And Rick Pitino just quite recently actually had an interview admitting that we should have taken our lumps and stayed with Chauncey and instead of trading him. And Chauncey Billups once said that he was so glad to leave Pitino because that whole environment was unbearable for him. So that's another example where from the NBA where a coach had all the power and it didn't really work out.
And it's nothing wrong about that. I mean, bad situations, bad fit happen, and you just have to deal with your own mistakes. We all do mistakes and we improve from that. It's just unnecessary to put those players, those who are affected under the bus. It's not necessary to get them prisoned basically in your team. You just, you pay for your mistake. You let the player go somewhere else, to make him feel good, and you don't need to have this crazy hostage situation like they have with Pangos right now. So,
I mean, it's just, I think that when we're talking about these big budget clubs in EuroLeague, we have like at least 6 of those that we consider title challengers, let's say. I think in these clubs, as a coach, you should feel some pressure that if you're losing too many games, if your team is playing poorly, you might be fired. And it seems like Messina doesn't have that pressure in Milan. And I don't know why. They have the ownership and everything, and they just in such a great relationship. There's so much respect between them that the coach basically he can only quit on his own terms.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he admitted that he went to meet the owners and they just endorsed him to continue the job, to fix the situation. So I don't know.
I don't think there are too many excuses to be 2-6 in EuroLeague right now with that roster.
Injuries.
Yeah, injuries, okay, man.
But you constructed the team with 17 forwards and 3 guards. So that's kind of also on you.
Mirotic is not injured. Shields is not injured.
Yeah, but imagine they don't sign Mirotic, but they signed a guard for the same amount of money.
I have a question too.
We talked about this when in August. Not in August, but in September before the EuroLeague season. We said that there's not enough balance in this team, and this team is one injury away of suffering bad. 2 of 6.
I think
the injury started before the round 1 even.
They should sign John Wall and blame everything on him.
That's it. I think we are done with this segment.
Let's say this interview didn't happen. Let's say this is the preseason. Would you trade? I don't know how it would work, how it would look like, but instead of would you make a trade? Shabazz-Napier to Milan and Nikola Mirotic to Zvezda, in terms of making it more sense and helping the team just to work.
Without a doubt, easy. Make it right now. Why do you need
if
with
I'm
Shabazz?
Zvezda, I'm taking it for sure.
If Milano, you're not taking. You have Nikola Melli that's playing. I don't know. That's taking 3 shots in 25 minutes during the game.
It's true. Now, if I'm Milan, I would want a bit more than just Shabazz for the value of Nikola Mirotic. Probably I would want more. But if I'm Zvezda, that's an easy choice. It's not because Shabazz is a bad player, but you do have Dos Santos, Teodosic, Nedovic, and Teo actually is balling right now. He looks better than last year.
Jago is also balling.
So with Mirotic, you have so many options offensively, and you can play him at his position. So definitely, it makes more sense.
With Shabazz, they were winning all games. Their lineups looked incredible. Melli Voigtman was the best lineup, I think, in the EuroLeague when they played. It was scoring 30 points more
won the Italian championship as well.
Won the Italian championship. It was just basically unstoppable, that lineup. And you sign Mirotic on top of that. You don't really need him that much. Like Nikola Melli gives you so many things on offense. He can compensate for 80% of what Mirotic gives you, in the offense. He doesn't give you, the one-on-one solution that Mirotic gives. But if you can have that from Shabazz, it's like, to me, it's a no-brainer. Like they needed a guard this offseason, and they signed a power forward who's now playing at the 3.
But I also understand that it's so tempting when you're in a position where you can actually sign arguably the best player in Europe right now. It's really tempting. It's kind of like Paris Saint-Germain can sign Lionel Messi, even though it's not a good fit. It's not what they need. But
how did it work?
But it didn't. That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, but you're so tempted by the idea of having him with your club's shirt, jersey. So I can understand that, but also you need some common sense probably. And Mirotic, if it wasn't for Milan, who knows where he would have landed.
The market was almost closed.
There weren't too many options, probably. There weren't too many clubs that could afford him.
And there's the thing, all the main Milan star guys, they went somewhere else as well. They just went for the best player available on the market. And maybe they were also affected by this, kind of negative off-season, I would say. You can feel desperate when you're Milan. You have all the power in the market. You have a lot of money, and nobody's signing with you. And you have this opportunity to get Mirotic as something like a reward and somebody which calms you down a little bit about your off season.
And where the biggest irony is that at the end of the day, you have Mike James with all his Twitter takes. I agree with all of them, actually. Publicly making fun of Ettore Messina, where 4 years ago, Ettore Messina came in and he just said, it's going to be about the team. I don't need any individuals. And he just cut Mike James off the team. Would Mike James be the right driver to the car? I think he drives the car
pretty well.
I think he's a pretty good driver. And now you're just criticizing the point guards you have chosen yourself. So
just imagine how Mike felt when he hit that dagger in Milano just a couple of weeks ago. How sweet that must have been.
It didn't seem like he cared too much about that, but
I don't
inside,
think
I think he's smiling right now.
I would be feeling
he's smiling.
I would be
right
feeling
now.
great. I would be feeling great.
And it's not
Yeah.
only Mike James, yeah. I mean, Brandon Davis is one of the fresh examples. Being successful somewhere else, probably Kevin Pangos will be successful. So that's the biggest problem with Milan for me. They're kind of quick to misjudge players, and they make it also in a bad way. They're putting them out of the rotation.
Yeah.
They make them really unhappy with their situation, if they lose joy in basketball. I just randomly and accidentally found an interview of Aaron White when he left Milan in 2019, I think, and he was there only for a couple of months, and he was so mad about the whole situation, how it played out, and he already said that, the whole situation in Milan was so unclear with the game. They played with the situation. Nobody knew what to do. He didn't feel any joy in playing basketball, and he felt that somebody else felt the same way. So, it's going season after the season, and, that's the issue with Milan.
Yeah. I look at their roster right now. I don't see any bad players. I don't see a bad player on that roster. All of them in different teams and different systems would be great.
We just see too many good players going to Milan and becoming, miserable, becoming ghosts of themselves. Like last year, Deshaun Thomas, after a great year in Bayern Munich, he was not playing at all. A lot of people probably already forgot about Deshaun Thomas. Kevin Pangos, Brandon Davis,
Devon
Johannes
Hall. I
Voigtmann.
honestly think Devon Hall is a high-level shooting guard. He could be successful for many teams in EuroLeague.
Although I would say he was discovered by Messina because he got a lot of confidence and
and
trust
in the
from
first
Messina.
year, it
but
was okay.
The last year,
And even this season so far.
it felt like at some point he kind of was out of the rotation. And from what I heard, Devon Hall was already offered to some teams this year in the EuroLeague. So this is the part that I don't like, and maybe that's the issue with having those two positions, the president of basketball operations and the head coach.
But he won the EuroLeague when
too
Kyle
much
Hines was in
based
college.
You're acting too much based on emotions. And I'm not wishing anybody to get fired, to be honest, because it's not only about, let's say, Messina. It's also about the assistant coaches that work for Messina, and they're not getting paid millions, and for them to move places, to switch places with their families and stuff like that. So I never wish anybody to get fired.
We don't want
make me
coaches
wrong,
to be fired, but we at the same time we don't want players to be in a position that Kevin Pangos is right now.
Yeah, exactly. And just too many players went through that, and it's not fair. One last trade I have, which involves and includes Milan. Let's say this interview didn't happen, and there's the trade offer: Kevin Pangos for Shabazz Napier. Given the fact that Shabazz, let's say he was struggling, in particular in the four quarters, Kevin Pangos was not the right driver for Milan. What about switching those two players?
I don't know if I'm Zvezda, I'm sticking with Shabazz. I give him more time. I'm not in danger. As we said, Iago Dos Santos for Sferopoulos has been great so far. Teodosic is producing numbers and actually playing like a leader on that team. And Nedovic is back after injury. I'm not in panic mode. I wouldn't change that. I still believe that Shabazz Napier maybe has a higher ceiling than Kevin Pangos does. Definitely Shabazz is more capable of playing in ISO situations, one-on-one, creating his own shots. Pangos is a great pick-and-roll guard. But no, I'm not making that trade.
Okay, so what if I give
If
you
I'm
one
Milan,
of the
yeah.
7 big men?
Sorry?
What if I also add one of the 7 power forwards or
I
centers
think
that they have?
Zvezda has
Enough.
a lot
Yeah.
of big guys. Like
It's probably second
I
the
don't
most
know
depth
if
team in the
they
front
need
line. Yeah.
a Johannes Voigtmann on that team. I'm not
Mhm.
sure about that.
Okay.
You still have Mike Tobey, who's basically your third option.
I
at
don't know
center.
how to improve that offer, to be honest.
Cash considerations, man.
Cash is always good.
Draft picks and cash considerations.
What do you think, Augustus?
Swap Napier for Pangos?
Mhm.
No.
If you're Zvezda,
No. Why? You said it.
Yeah.
You said everything.
Yeah, okay. I agree with you. Although I would swap Mirotic for Napier, or let's say the situation where I can sign Napier instead of Mirotic in the off season.
Mhm.
just getting Mirotic also would rub it into Partizan's fans' faces. Like, you almost had him, but now we got him.
And actually, we don't have anything bad to say about Mirotic. He's having a great season. 20 points.
I mean,
8
Mirotic
rebounds,
is
the
even
most
on a
efficient player
losing
in the
team.
EuroLeague.
Even on a losing
Yeah.
team, he's Mr. Consistency.
Mr. Consistent on losing. Just kidding.
No,
Just kidding.
I'm
Let's-
talking about
let's
his
move on.
individual
Let's
performance.
exaggerate.
Let's move on. Let's move
Yeah,
on.
but,
You're too harsh, man.
Just a joke. Just
That's
a joke.
pretty good joke, yeah.
But let's make Kevin Pangos happy. Let's find the best EuroLeague destination for Kevin Pangos to get playing time, to feel happy, to play a bigger role, and to be efficient for his new team, to help that team win.
I think, Baskonia signed Chris Chiozza, but it might not be enough. Like, we don't know the Nico Mannion situation. He's injured. He's not playing. When he was playing, you had some doubts. So maybe Kevin Pangos. Okay, they already have undersized guards, but it's clear that even if Duško Ivanović would like to have his team with more defensive mentality, you're not going to reshape the roster in a way that Baskonia all of a sudden will become a defensive juggernaut. So Kevin Pangos to run the offense, I think, could be a good fit.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think, as well need a point guard, but I think Pangos fit in Baskonia. Just giving them another shooter with Sedekerskis, with Chima on the court, having a guy who could knock down a 3-pointer, who can create at the one spot. They've been lacking that, and to start the season, that could unlock their offense even more, make it a little bit more easier for the other guys, make it a little bit more easier for Marcus Howard at the end of the day. He's been getting so much attention there, and that's why he's not playing. He's not being that efficient because he's just having to face 2-3 guys all the time. So I think Baskonia would be a great fit. I was thinking maybe Partizan, Žalgiris, but I think Baskonia would make the most sense here.
Žalgiris maybe
they need a different type of player.
Maybe only because of the nostalgic feeling that Kevin Pangos could bring, but
they need a different
in general,
type of player.
They
that's
definitely
for sure.
need somebody else. Partizan, maybe, perhaps.
I actually went through teams that are on the market. For instance, Olympiacos, they're looking for maybe guard, scorer addition. Barcelona, they always have money, or let's say they have money for any kind of improvement throughout the season. Partizan, they were thinking about guards, and I think that it would make sense because I also put them in my short list of teams. I actually put Žalgiris as well, not going too deep if that's the right player, the right driver for Žalgiris team. But I heard, first of all, that Žalgiris actually asked about Kevin Pangos' situation in Milan, and probably they weren't very happy to hear his contract. And now, given what Messina said about Pangos on that interview, I don't see Pangos taking any discounts on his services in this current situation. So for Žalgiris, you have to expect Milan to cover a huge part of his contract, and it's up to 2 million. So that's huge. Valencia was actually, during the offseason, just before the start of the EuroLeague season, I heard that Valencia was one of the potential landing destinations for Kevin Pangos. Just not sure about this idea right now. They are successful, and why to, ruin that thing, Why you need to do something different about a successful team that is already. So I don't know.
Nah, they have Stefan Jovic as a really solid backup point guard. They have Jared Harper. Barcelona also, I think they're fine with their guards. La Provitola.
And if they need a guard, they need a scorer. I would say the wingman, not a point guard.
If they even need a guard, and with,
exactly.
And with Žalgiris has the right driver for their car.
Yeah,
they need some more passengers to keep him company.
Well,
like the driver is super solid.
The thing which I heard about Žalgiris was that we obviously see that Lukas Lekavičius is not the type of player who Kazis Maksvytis prefers and likes and knows how to utilize. Kazis Maksvytis just recently mentioned that he expected Shabazz Napier, Naz Mitrolong. For some reason, I confused them with these two guys so much. He expected Naz Mitrolong to be more of a point guard, shooting guard than a shooting guard, point guard. So, and from what I also heard from the behind the scenes, he's a bit concerned about the point guard position. And let's say he brings Kevin Pangos and keeps Keenan Evans as a combo guard, as somebody from a scorer's position and the profile. Would you see sense? Would you think it could be a right fit to have Pangos as a point guard, Keenan Evans as your scorer, shooting guard?
And then what? You dump the other contracts somewhere? Or you're staying with all the guys on the roster, the guards, and he also trusts Thomas Dimsha so much. He's trusting Dovydas Giedraitis this season much more than last year. I don't know. I would love to see Naz Mitrolong getting more opportunities, actually. And the comment about him being a 1-2 rather than a 2-1 is strange to me. Like, you're signing an experienced player, you should know who he is.
I just think it was somehow, misinterpreted by the coach and the media. I think it got just lost, in the world somewhere.
Not in translation, because it was said.
Yeah, maybe he wanted to express himself in a different way. Just put the bad wording.
Exactly. Like, I wouldn't make that big of a deal of that situation. Like, saying Naz Mitrolong is 1 more than 2 is just,
I'm not making a big deal. I'm just saying I would like to see him getting more opportunities.
And we talked about this before the podcast. Yeah. Naz is a player who needs confidence, who was the best when he has the green light. He doesn't have that in Žalgiris. Like, he's not been playing great. He has lost a little bit of confidence. He's not, even when he's shooting a free pointer, he's not doing that in full motion. You could see the little just hesitation.
Yeah, because as a scorer, when you're in a position where you're not sure when your next shot is going to come from, then you don't have that much confidence. That's true.
So, I don't know, Pangos Evans, it could be interesting, but I would probably, I know the situation in the market is really tough, but I would still probably go with a different type of player.
Yeah, if I'm Žalgiris, I'm sticking to the plan. I'm looking for somebody who can play as a shooting guard and a small forward, cover those positions. I'm not going to be tempted by the idea of bringing back one of our old players who brought us so much success.
And it's always, I think, better to have a taller guy who can score. If I'm taking Pangos or I have the opportunity to take a 2-3 big body who can score a little bit, I'm taking that over Pangos because I already had Keenan Evans.
If somebody asks me if I would accept Žalgiris signing Corey Higgins immediately, I would say yes. That's different. Another point guard, as good as he is, I don't know. I don't think that's what they need.
Yeah, it probably depends on how much his coach is dissatisfied with the point guard position and playmaking. And it's like not confirmed rumor, but I've heard that, Kazis Maksvytis prefers somebody with the EuroLeague experience. He doesn't want to take those risks with the borderline NBA players without the EuroLeague experience, and it makes sense. And, since the market is thin, if the team starts losing, sometimes you start doing some aggressive moves. Sometimes it's irrational. Sometimes it works out. So you never know. But again, in this situation...
It sounds like an expensive move.
Exactly. Money should be an issue in this situation. Yeah, anyways, enough of Milan and Kevin Pangos. Although, of course, if we about to wrap up about Milan, those losses against Skafati, especially against a team which actually shout out to Yanis Strelniks and David Logan. Logan is still bowling at 40. Alessandro Gentile is still playing for Italy for Skafati. I mean, that was again that was an upset, and then they're losing to
who else was
Bologna.
On that team? Dennis Marconato,
Giacomo Galanda,
Roberto
Giacomo Galanda,
Kacic. Basile.
Gianluca, I was about to say Gianluca Basile making some frees.
Massimo Bulleri, Matteo Saragna.
Yeah, Italian guys who listen, we still remember.
Marcus Gori dominating.
We still remember.
Benjamin Eze, no?
Sean Stonebrook.
Any thoughts about Virtus and Milan?
No. There were 6 games of EuroLeague. How I'm supposed to watch all of them in like 8 hours?
At least judging from the score, it was better than last year.
Oh yeah, last year it was under 60s probably. Something in the 50s. Now we had this great performance by Ife Lundberg, Avuda Abbas as well. Lundberg scored 19, Avuda Abbas 14, and Lundberg was scoreless in the last 3 EuroLeague games, while Avuda Abbas didn't score a single point in the entire season. So, why you're laughing?
I can give you texts about Gediminas Orelikas. Why you're not asking about that one?
Come on now. We're talking about one of the best teams in EuroLeague right now.
Who?
Virtus Bologna.
We already talked about them, I don't know, 2 hours.
Okay.
So,
if you want to hear the extended analysis of Virtus success, just click on our previous podcast that we did last week. From all the other games, who did impress you the most? What takes do you have from the rest of the games that we had on Tuesday?
I enjoyed Valencia Real Madrid from the point of physicality. Like when we tried to say why EuroLeague regular season is better than the NBA, why is it more interesting? So often we emphasize the physicality, and I think Valencia and Real Madrid was as physical as it gets. I mean, the size for both teams for positions 2 to 5, the way the guys were actually fighting in the paint. Tavares' effect in the third quarter. He didn't finish the game with spectacular numbers, but in the third quarter, he was the one who adjusted Valencia's offense. He blocked 3 or 4 shots. Some of the shots, he forced them to take really uncomfortable angles. And that was the true Eddie Tavares, the Defensive Player of the Year version. And in the first half, maybe it felt like the more Spanish game, like a lot of fast breaks, running and gunning, a lot of 3-pointers. In the second half, it got nasty, more defensive type of game. Also, so many matchups that I loved following in that game, like Ingles versus Yabusele, 2 French guys. And Damien Ingles definitely had some good plays. Brandon Davis, 20 points in the first half. In the first half, he seemed like Dirk Nowitzki combined with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He started with the pick and pop actions, and he made the first shots. He felt good about himself. Then he started making some mid-range shots, a sky hook, not only versus Tavares, also versus Poirier. But in the second half, things went in a different direction. So that was just, in general, a really good game. Like, for someone who's not yet into EuroLeague, to watch that game, to feel what it's all about, that would be awesome. Also because of all the plays, the clutch plays, like Hezonja, a couple of shots in the fourth quarter, tough shots. Chris Jones on one side, Facu Campazzo on the other side. Just a good game of basketball, I have to say.
And Real Madrid is still undefeated.
We
are in November 15th. And Real Madrid hasn't lost a game in ACB or EuroLeague this season. They're 16-0. And just as we expected before the season, they really look undefeated.
I mean,
they look, unbeatable.
But before this game, I actually had a feeling like Valencia is going to be the team at home
that could do it.
And they were in a position to do so. I mean, it was a really tough game for
Hezonja hit that shot.
2 shots, actually. Well, that fadeaway shot was tough. But even before that, there was a shot contested by Sami Ojeleye.
Mr. Donatas, the referee, said it was okay.
This podcast is such a Mario Hezonja's haters club that I cannot even stand.
It has nothing to do with...
It has to do with Mario Hezonja. Great shot, I just said.
It's a 3-pointer, clear 3-pointer.
Clear 3-pointer, okay.
Yeah, for some reason for you it's not clear. But anyways, yeah.
Okay. Your takes?
Let's not invent any rules. My takes, Olympiacos Maccabi was interesting one because Luke Sigma got back. And at some point...
Great minutes.
I was feeling that Luke Sigma was having Sasha Vezenkov night of scoring a lot of points on 0 dribbles. He had a great stretch when he entered the court in the end of the first quarter, I think. He scored 8 points in 4 minutes. I mean, just watching him distributing from the point forward position, scoring those points and getting himself open, it really reminded me. And before watching Alec Peters making, all kinds of shots, and it felt like I'm watching Sasha Vezenkov just making himself split in two players and doing all these great things. And it was great to watch Luke Sigma successful on the court again. But then, he was not playing the entire third quarter. Sigma got back into the lineup only at the beginning of the fourth quarter. He obviously lost his rhythm and he couldn't recover. And then he was benched. So for me, it was a bit weird from one point of view, but it's Yorgos Bartsokos and his rotation. So, that's probably the adjustment that Luke Sigma also will have to do. Somebody who used to play in Alba, a lot of minutes, and of course closing the games as well.
Has Bartsokos ever explained his rotations? Why he does that?
I think so. Somebody, of course, should have asked him about it. And
is there an interview in English? About this, because probably
there should be something.
Media.
I just don't remember the exact arguments behind it, but for sure,
I would love to read it.
Yeah,
I'm not complaining.
Yeah,
just asking, has he given an answer to this? My impressions from that game, I don't know. First one was death taxes and Olympiacos getting a backdoor cut when Alec Peters sets a screen for Kostas Papanikolaou. In every game, they catch their opponents at least once. Thomas Walkup with the perfect pass, 2 easy points. My second impression was their passing. I watch a lot of their games because I enjoy watching them as opposed to Olimpia Milano. And even though they can't score without, they don't score a lot from ISO plays, but I just love their passing. And I remember when I think Steve Kerr started coaching the Warriors, and a lot of players were saying, we are practicing passing way more than in any other NBA team. And I would love to know if Olympiacos are also practicing their passing, or is it just their chemistry that affects it? Because they really are on point with some of passes, like off the ground, with some bullet passes. I just love the way they share the ball sometimes, and it's not enough. Always, in the second half, they just have this problem of going on scoring droughts for too long, and that's what allowed Maccabi to get into this game. And this is a problem of Olympiacos. This is nothing new, but this is why they're not blowing teams anymore like they did last season. How many times we saw they get things done in 3 quarters. They are plus 15, plus 20, and Sasha Vezenkov is not even playing in the last 5 or 7 minutes in the game. And this season, even if they're winning, but that's a rare sign by a lot of points, they still struggle because they could go at any time. They can go on a 3-4 minute run without scoring. So that's really their problem. And I'm still not sure what Brzezdekis' role is in this team, because he's playing, handoffs, passing more, and when he's a player that needs the ball in his hands, playing one-on-one. He doesn't have many of those opportunities. So I'm interested to see how this goes on, how they give Brzezdekis more room to operate in the future. But a lot of guys are coming back. Maybe Olympiacos will be healthy soon, and we can really see the full picture.
Because without Milutinov, Foul plays 35 minutes.
Yeah,
right.
It's a double game week, so he's probably going to play 70 minutes of basketball in 48 hours. That's
a lot
of minutes.
Yeah, and for Maccabi it was also not easy task, to protect the paint, having foul for 35 minutes and getting so many post-up situations. And I think that they did pretty well job, and also stayed in the game. So, and especially playing without Wade Baldwin, of course, it was not an easy task for them.
Tamir Blatt was absolutely amazing, I thought, in stepping up in his place against that passive drop defense of Mustafa Fall. I don't know how many mid-range jumpers he made. He was absolutely phenomenal, I thought, yesterday on offense.
Yeah, and just last two things, these games in Belgrade remind me of those COVID years, really, and how much they miss Menora Meftahim. I mean, at home, they were unbeatable, basically. How many games they lost last year? Maybe two?
I think 2.
Yeah, and now I think they already lost 2 home games or whatever. So it's just pity, for Maccabi to lose this fan base and to be in this situation. It's just horrible. And the other moment, since, we don't have any fans, it's very easy to hear everything what's being said and discussed on the court. Of course, we always had this privilege to hear most of the timeouts that we have. I just, there were these two moments where I was like, how much I love Yorgos Bartzokas communicating during the timeouts. He manages to break down the situation so simple and so perfect. First of all, playing that mental role, philosophical role sometimes, calming the guys down, and then also giving assignments on the court, and the way he communicates his body language is it should be put as an example for some of the head coaches. And then I'm watching the first half of Zvezda and the Fenerbahce game. Sforopoulos is drawing some play, and what a privilege to have such a player like Milos Teodosic on your team. I mean, he just listens and he sees that there's an opportunity to offer some better idea, and he just asks, can we play zipper pick and roll, because they're hedging, so pass short roll with Luka Mitrovic. And just Sforopoulos just asks, do you want to play shelf or whatever? He says whatever, just this zipper pick and roll action. And the next play, the next possession, you see Iago dos Santos playing high pick and roll, Mitrovic makes short roll, passes to the corner, Mike Tobey is open. He missed the shot, but everybody in the court, the coach from the baseline, from the sidelines, they're clapping, because it was a great play. So these were my two highlights of these timeouts that I loved.
That was a great timeout, but not like Fenerbahce was playing really good defense there. I mean, exposing that hedge is really not in.
I know it was a bad night for Fenerbahce in general. If you remember how they made all those shots in the first half against Partizan compared to this game, I mean,
they were missing.
The difference was huge.
It's not Zvezda played, I thought, great physical defense in the first half, but also Fener was missing some wide open shots that they got. But their main problem was defensively. First of all, transition defense after those long misses, those 3-pointers that they didn't make. Zvezda scored a lot in transition, and then basically not understanding what to do with the Spain pick and roll of Crvena Zvezda. They just ran that Spain pick and roll all over again and again and again, 5 or 6 or 7 times. And they got scores, they got good looks on those Spain pick and roll tries. I mean, and last but not least, Iago dos Santos. Shabazz Napier gets hit in the nose. He gets to step in early. And why was Duško Ivanović still keeping him on the bench? I'm not sure. But he's been playing amazingly since Sforopoulos, took over the team. His confidence is amazing. He's playing better every game, making 3-pointers, making the right passes. Even, in transition, just waiting for that moment when the defense opens up, goes to the corners, and there's a wide open guy under the basket. So just love to see him getting this great opportunity, bigger role, and I'm excited he's delivering.
Yeah, Theo also had a great game. Anyways, another thing I actually wanted to hear your opinion. Kendrick Nunn made his EuroLeague debut, and it was a huge in-season signing made by Panathinaikos. 6 points in 8 minutes. He was 0 of 5 from 3. In the following Greek League game, he played 9 minutes. He went scoreless. Once again, 1 of 5, 0 from 5 from the field. But it's not about these two games unless you watch his first game against Alba. But I'm not sure if I heard your opinion about Kendrick Nunn and his fit in the EuroLeague, and then of course in Panathinaikos. Do you believe it might be a good fit?
I don't know what Kendrick Nunn we're getting. Like, the man had serious injuries and didn't play a lot of basketball in the last few years. So I don't know. He's still pretty young. He's probably capable. He will need some time for sure. We cannot expect him to become a EuroLeague star in few weeks. But it seems like he's gonna get a big role on that team. Probably we had same questions about Jabari Parker. He's not a point guard. He's a forward, but he's getting better. And at the moment, you could say that he's playing as one of the top forwards in the league. In the last few weeks, we saw him making big shots, making big plays, and probably I'm pretty close to saying that all the skepticism towards that signing was wrong, and Jabari Parker is the right player for Barcelona. So again, with Kendrick Nunn, probably these are the same questions. We will get the answers in a couple of months, I think. Well, they're paying him a lot of money. He's gonna be on a big payroll as a star player.
He has to be a difference maker
in the context of EuroLeague. So you're not gonna settle for 6 points, 2 assists per game. You're gonna expect a lot more from him. Is he capable? Again, I am not sure. I mean, if everything was right, the guy wouldn't be in Europe. The way he played his first 2 seasons in the NBA for Miami Heat, it seemed like he's gonna be a $20 million contract player per year.
Tyler Johnson.
But
type of
then
vibes.
he signed with the Lakers. He got hurt in 2022-23 season. He played some minutes, but he was just a role player off the bench for the Lakers, for the Washington Wizards. So I don't really know what to say. Does he have the skills? For sure. Left-handed guard, a good scorer. He can create his own shot, and he has all that. And I listened to your podcast with Eric McCollum and Kendrick Perry, and they said all the right things, but they were talking about Kendrick Nunn the way he's supposed to be. Is he that Kendrick Nunn right now after what happened in the last few years? Nobody knows. It's up to him to prove that.
I just searched for information, and looked at some Laker games from last season. The guys that are covering Lakers on every game were basically saying that, he could not have played worse. He hasn't played worse in his career in the NBA than he did last year. So I think that has a lot to do with why he's now here in Europe. But in the first couple of games, I like his aggressiveness. He's taking a lot of shots. He's confident about himself. And
you cannot say that these were bad shots, to be honest. These were quite okay shots, I would say.
Yeah, they're early shots. Let's say in Europe, not everybody is taking those early shots. A lot of guys maybe instead of going for that mid-range are trying to get a better opportunity. But if this is NBA, this is a normal, great shot. So he's taking those. I like that he's being aggressive. That wasn't a complaint about his first couple of games. He just needs to get his legs under him, and he knows how to play basketball. In the NBA, his, let's say, career was going a little bit down, but he can be good in Europe. And it's just, I think it's a question of Ergin Ataman figuring out how to work those lineups with him, Lucas Vildoza, Grigonis, Jermaine Grant. How do you mix all these guards together? What's the best solution? Do you keep Lucas and Nunn together, 2 left-handed ball handlers, basically? So Nunn can shoot, Nunn can make the floater, he can score. It's just, we have to see more of him to understand really in what condition or shape he's in right now.
But at Nikos, I think he has a long history of signing NBA guards that were kind of good, or at least were high draft picks. I remember Tony Delk. I'm talking Tony Delk. I'm talking Marcus Banks. I'm talking Jason Capono. I'm talking Jimmer Fredette.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Some examples, and some worked out better than the others.
You said guards, right? Only
guards. I mean, Capono is not a guard; he's a shooter, but still.
No. Just if you look at his Wesley profile, Johnson, but
Wesley Johnson
wing
also,
more.
At some point in his career, he was considered a really solid NBA player. So they tend to gamble on these players to sign them, but sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes you never know what you're gonna get. And actually, it's funny that I mentioned Jabari Parker. I'm now looking at Kendrick Nunn's Wikipedia page, and it says that Kendrick Nunn, alongside Jabari Parker, played in 2012 FIBA Under 17 World Championship in Kaunas.
Right.
Wow.
Yep.
So
I remember watching that.
Now we have these 2 guys balling in Europe.
I remember watching that because these 2 guys are actually the same in my age. So I was watching that championship, and I remember Jabari, there was Jahlil Okafor on that team, Kendrick Nunn, Tyus Jones as well on that team, and it was Connor Frankamp there as well. a lot of really guys there, and in that championship, Ben Simmons was there also,
Yeah,
Dante
Dante.
Exum, Mario,
Hezonja was there also, I think.
no, Hezonja is 90.
Dario Šarić.
Dario Šarić was 94, Hezonja 95, I think. Wait.
I think Šarić was there.
But Šarić is a year older.
For some reason, I remember.
He's 94. Hezonja is 95, and he was the best prospect in Europe at that time. So it was one of the most, I think, stacked world championships under 17. So many good players on that USA team. Anyway, I'm forgetting someone as well.
I have to ask, since I mentioned Jabari Parker, and he's been good so far. He's been healthy. That's also important. And he's playing in EuroLeague and in ACB as well. So there's no load management or anything like that. Do you think that for these NBA players, it's easier to make adjustments in Europe for, let's say, a forward, someone who's a 3 and a 4, rather than a guard? Because when you're a guard, you're stepping in the role to basically run the team, and it's kind of different. Do you think it's easier or not, or is just one example?
I think it's a little bit easier for the forward. I think point guard has to control a little more things, a little more details. So forward can just be in his spots, understand where he needs to be, understand where he needs to cut. He doesn't need to control the game or where the ball goes. He just needs to understand what to do in a closeout situation, or just play one-on-one when given the opportunity, and don't get lost on the defensive end, basically. So I think less tasks for the forward makes it a little bit easier for the big guys. But
sounds about right. But also Jabari Parker has a mind of a point guard. I mean, he's a smart basketball player. He can create from post-up situations. He's more of a scorer, let's say. He takes a lot of mid-range shots and all that, but he reads the game very well. That's also nice to see.
I really thought you were going with this. Do you think it's easier for a European guy to adjust in the NBA, or for an NBAer to adjust in Europe?
I mean,
and it would have been a smooth transition to the last pod topic.
Okay, we can still do that, but it's also a good question. But it's a different environment. Like in the NBA, there are so many circumstances that sometimes decide if you're going to be successful or not. Whether you're on the right team, what other players are in your position, how much trust will they have in you? Are you coming into the NBA as a rookie drafted, a high draft pick that will definitely get more time and the team will work with you? Or are you signing your rookie contract as a 30-year-old or 29-year-old European player?
Is the team bringing you just because they need some signed guys for salary, or are you actually, they want you?
Everything's so different. Like, are you signing with a team that's maybe in tank mode? They're trying to build the roster. They're trying to get some high draft picks, so they will give everybody some minutes. Or are you signing for a team that's already a playoff team and is trying to be a serious contender? And these are difficult questions. Like we know that when we're speaking about deep playoff teams, that eventually it's going to be a 7 or 8 man rotation. And it's hard to get there when you're joining a team that already has an established 7 or 8 man rotation from the previous season. So it's very different. In Europe, you're basically signing that NBA guy to be your star. Like you're paying Kendrick Nunn, and he's going to be your second highest paid player on the roster, or third?
Top 3.
Yeah. Top 3. So you're definitely signing him for an immediate effect. I think for a European, it's definitely better when you get drafted and you join the NBA early and they treat you differently. Like
if they give you playing time because you are a draft pick.
Yeah,
first round. If you go first,
they invested their first round pick.
Yeah,
so that's why they're gonna give you some opportunities.
Second round doesn't really matter if you're going to play. If you
really just need to fight then for your minutes and prove.
Yeah. Anyway, Sasha Vezenkov.
Yeah, and to finish this transition, it's funny, we're recording this pod after actually both of our former EuroLeague MVP, Sasha Vezenkov and Vasily Micic, were coming off their season highs. Vezenkov had 11 points against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and Vasa Micic just played this game tonight with 8 points and 4 assists. But a lot of people were really concerned last week when in the battle of two former EuroLeague MVPs, Vezenkov and Micic combined for 8 minutes in total, and actually only Vezenkov was playing. So my question to you would be, are you concerned? Should we be concerned about their role, about the future NBA in both cases?
Oh, well, you didn't mention that Vezenkov was lighting the beam for the first
Oh, yeah,
time.
yeah. That was nice.
Just before
Vezenkov was super happy doing that.
Yeah.
It looked so nice.
I mean, one game you get a DMP, and then the next game you're lighting the beam. So you can't be sad about that.
It's a long season. It's 82 games in a regular season. And I feel more comfortable with Vezenkov in the position that he's in. He's playing in a good system, and he's also a player that plays off ball. So once he's on that court, he's going to get opportunities to shoot, catch and shoot opportunities. He can score. Maybe sometimes for Coach Brown, it depends on the matchups, if he's going to trust Vezenkov that night or not. It depends on what the other team has on their second unit, for example. But I feel okay with him. I think, in the long season, things might happen, injuries and stuff, and there will be good performances for sure. And it's easier for him. Like I said, he's an off-ball player.
Mm-hmm.
Micic is a different case. I'm not sure. He has a contract. It's a contract we've discussed that can actually be put in different trade scenarios. The team has not only Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Josh Giddey, and Dort. It's a young team where Mark Dagnall trusts other young guys like Cason Wallace, for example.
Cason Wallace was their first-round pick.
He's ahead of Micic in the rotation as well. And Vasa Micic, if he's playing for 3 or 4 minutes and he plays 1 or 2 pick and rolls, well, he's not going to be effective. That's not his game. For Vasa Micic to be good on an NBA team, I think it should be this way. Like, he's the leading point guard of the second unit. In that case, we could see Micic being good for playing 18 or 20 minutes per game, having the ball in his hands, running the pick and roll, and he would be averaging something like 7 or 8 points and 4 or 5 assists. But it seems unlikely that it's going to happen in Oklahoma, honestly.
I think Micic is in a much harder situation in the NBA. We just said, if the team invests a first-round pick into you, they're going to give you a playing time. And OKC is really high on their guys that they drafted, and Micic is in front of one of those guys. So I really think, I don't know, he has to get his reputation up somehow. But how to do that if you are not playing? So unless a trade happens, unless an injury happens for some other players that we don't really wish, I don't think he's getting much playing time. Although today was a positive sign because he got minutes, in the first quarter already, and then he played a lot more in the second half since it was a blowout win for OKC. Sasha's situation, I think, is much better. Lineups with him statistically look really good. He actually looks better than I expected defensively. Like, teams still try to target him. He has done, I think, a pretty solid job defending in one-on-one situations. And offensively, he's going to get, in that Sacramento offense, he's going to get some shots. He's a lot of times running wide open, but it's just, without De'Aaron Fox, it was really hard for him to get those passes on point in time. The last game, Fox came back. He instantly got probably his best game of the season. And Sabonis is trying to use him. You can't imagine, unless it's Jokic, a better fit to play next to him. He's even trying to him. There was one play in transition where Sabonis got the rebound. He was running on the break, and he's shouting, Vezenkov, come get this handoff. Come get his handoff to you so you can shoot in transition. So he trusts Sasha. He knows what he's capable of doing, and I expect, more of these handoffs going forward.
It's another team that emphasizes passing.
Right.
So it's good for a player like Vezenkov.
Just my only thing is Trey Lyles. When he comes back,
that's a good question.
Is he in front of Sasha in the rotations? Do you trust a guy that's already played for you last season more than, a European guy coming over that still doesn't have reputation? Even though Mike Brown, he spoke really highly about Sasha after her last game in post-game interview. So they know what Sasha is capable of doing, but there are guys on the team already that went to the playoffs last year with them. So
yeah, just the last thing I wanted to say is like we're sitting here talking about Micic situation as some important big thing, and for him it is important, of course. He's on a contract. He's on a 3-year, $23 million deal. The third year is club option, I think. But for us, it looks important, and we look at the box score. Oh, Micic didn't play so bad. He's in a bad situation. For Oklahoma, he's just another player, a regular player. They can find somebody else if needed, anytime, every summer. For them, it's all about the process with Chet Holmgren. For them, it's all about improving, developing Josh Giddey. You already have an established NBA superstar, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You're trying to build a team that's going to be a serious contender in 3 or 4 years. So everything is focused on developing Chet Holmgren. And you're not developing a 30-year-old point guard from Serbia. You're not going to develop him. The coach, it's just up to him to decide. Do I want to give him 5 minutes with the second unit or not? And I mean, that's the way it is. That's the reality.
But the thing is that they brought him there for a reason, because otherwise they should just kept these draft rights and that's it. Just keep him playing in Europe. But, they brought him there for a reason. And as I was told by somebody, we should trust Sam Presti, because it's unlikely that Micic will get playing time and big opportunities in this team loaded with so much talent and upside in the backcourt. But I would say, Sam Presti and Thunder will try to increase his trade value. That's for sure. And maybe that's why Micic is not playing just some, garbage time, trash minutes, because it's not the best platform, to show his abilities and to increase his trade value. And that's why instead of getting 3-4 minutes per game, he's either playing or not. Like this time with San Antonio, 19 minutes also was his season high. So although Micic is not on their priority list, that's for sure, still they will try to find ways how to utilize him potentially to increase his trade value, and then to explore some options that might turn out well also for Vasilije Micic. And it's not like this is something that Micic didn't expect. He also had the right mindset getting over there. He knew that OKC is a tough situation for him, but let's see who is going to get injured, who is not. Load management, a lot of stuff. Let's not forget that OKC, they're also, they're not losing team. They're also winning games. So it's not easy to get playing time over there as well. But, they will try to find windows to help him to showcase his abilities and also potentially to increase his value. In Vezenkov's case is different. Sacramento brought him as somebody who could help them straight away or in a long term. There was no such project like, okay, let's bring him here, let's do something about it and trade his contract. Because Vasilije Micic, I was a bit surprised that he has the 5th highest contract in the OKC. So
he's their oldest player, I think.
Davis Bertans is 31.
Davis Bertans,
and then Vasilije Micic is 2nd. But with Sasha Vezenkov, as you said, we have to understand, the whole picture for us Europeans. Oh, Sasha, Vasa, they're the best players. Over there, they're nobody, to be honest. And they have to still prove their worth. And in Vezenkov's case, in his position and in the rotation and all the depth charts, he has, Harrison Barnes, Keegan Murray, Trey Lyles. That's a good mention, because he might also change their rotations. And from what I hear, Kings are really patient with Sasha Vezenkov. They like his desire to improve, to play, but also to adjust to the situation. He was out of the rotation recently, but just because Kings just lost a couple of games. Mike Brown decided to do some adjustments, to find the winning pattern. They actually managed to win those games, and Sasha was out of that rotation, and they just kept playing with that rotation.
Yeah.
And now again, Sasha is getting his minutes and situations, and with Sasha, the best thing is that he's in the right system. It's probably the best system for him, to play his best game, and it's up to him to adjust, to improve his body as much as is possible. He's limited. It's not like he's 20-year-old guy, and just wait for his window. Maybe that window will open, he will succeed, and he will earn a lot of minutes. But we shouldn't have huge expectations on both of these guys.
We're not talking all-star
exactly
level,
yeah,
or
but
anything like
some
that.
people, some fans are just having
Just
wrong expectations, I would say.
like Nemanja Bjelica left the EuroLeague as an MVP. In the end, he became a solid role player in the NBA, but more of a spot-up shooter, somebody who doesn't have the ball in his hands that much, but he can stretch the floor, he can do some nice things. In the end, he even got a ring as a veteran player for Warriors, playing in the NBA Finals and playing some important minutes and having the ball as a passer. So we're not expecting Vezenkov to be an all-star, but he could follow the footsteps of Nemanja Bjelica, for example. I think Bjelica also played for the Kings. And the funny thing with NBA is that, you can always think about playing for teams like Charlotte Hornets or Washington Wizards where you could put up stats. Like if you get Vasa Micic on one of those teams and the coach says, like, you're going to play for 30 or 35 minutes, he would get stats, that's for sure. But is that important?
Yeah. Especially if
you probably want to be a part of a winning team and to play serious basketball. And like 1/3 of the NBA doesn't really play serious basketball in the regular season because they're more interested in losing than winning. That's the reality. And both of these guys that we're talking about, they are on teams that are interested in winning.
Yeah.
So there you have to fight for your spot. It's obvious.
That's it for this podcast, I guess. Enjoy the rest of the double week. Follow the EuroLeague action on BasketNews.com, on our YouTube channel, social media accounts, and subscribe us on, join our Beyond Plus community on BasketNews.com/plus, because once again, the next week we're gonna have a Q&A session exclusively available only for Beyond Plus members, and again, a lot of good features that we have. See you soon.